Okay, this chus of our learning should be a panacea. We're going to start today Yud Chesamid Beis from the word Zav Layifches Chulu. What is that? About 12 lines from the bottom. Zav Layifches. Person donates gold. What do we say? He should give no less than a coin, a dinar zav. He says, he pledges gold. How much gold is that? So the Gemara says, Amar Abalazav Ushis Ketura. That's only if he said he's going to give a coin. So he has to give a coin. But if he just said gold, maybe if he could even bring a little fork of gold. It sounds like it's less than a coin. I don't know what they would use it for, this such a tiny fork. Then we said Shishal and Nadava. We didn't itemize those six. They said there's 13 shayfras. We itemized 7 of them. Then we said the last 6 are Linadava. We didn't say exactly what that meant. What Nadava? What exactly? Just plain 6. Gemara says, Rav Amar, Chizki Amar. Okay. It says, Keneged Shisha Bati Yavis. It corresponds to the way the Kainim were divided. They were divided into 24 groups. And then each group was divided into 6 or 7 days of the week. And so 6, it's a little bit big if it's 6 or 7. So let's say it's divided by 6, but it makes everything easier. So what they did here was that people would donate coins. They would put it into the Sunday group, Monday group. That way, if the Mizbeach was empty on Sunday, so the people from the Sunday would take from there. That was there to take from. There would be less fights here. Yeah, there's a commentary on the bottom, seeing Yerushalayim, that's making a big deal about if there's 6 or 7. I don't know who that is. Let's see if it says here. Yeah, I don't know who it is. Oh, it says, Tzin Yerushalayim is the Shalom Meshav. And his brother-in-law. Okay. Bar Padia Amar Keneged Sheish Behemoths. It's corresponding to the 6 animals. So what are the 6 animals? Par, Be'egel, Basar, Ayel, Gedi, Utlef. So what would happen is people would put in coins and say, I'd like to donate a cow or a calf or a goat, a ram, another goat, a young goat or a sheep. And they would put into each one what they meant it for. Shmuel Amar Keneged Shisha Karbanis. Shmuel says it corresponds to 6 different types of sacrifices. Kini Zavim, Kini Zavis, Kini Yoldes, Chates, Vashamis, Aminches, Vasirs, Amenachis, Vasir Seifa. I'm not sure how this is working because these are all per donation. I guess maybe they're offering to give for someone that needs these things, I guess. Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Al Yidei She'anedavim Meruba Riba L'Sheifer Sarbe. From what Rabbi Yechanan is saying, it looks like that it wasn't designated for specific things. There was so much nedavas that they just had a bunch of different pushkas to fill up. It says in the pasuk that when they finished bringing all of these, all of the donations, this is by Yayash, when he was collecting money to renovate the Beis Hamikdash. So they brought the money they brought it in front of the king, and Yoyada was the high priest. Reb Shimon bar Nachman Shem Rabbi Yonasan Amar Shtei Nedavis Asa. Says it seems like there were two. You're saying that there was a collection that was done based on this. This pasuk could be a new thing. He's teaching this pasuk. That means that they had two boxes. One was inside and one was outside. Rabbi Shmuel says no, it was only one box that they used for this collection. It says no, they made a box. They put it in the chamber of Hashem, the house of Hashem, and they made a hole in its door to allow the coins to drop in. The Gemara says, really? But it says that they put it outside. So it seems like Reb Shimon bar Nachman, in the name of Rabbi Yonasan, is correct that there were two. Rav Huna says that there was really one. They put it inside, but then the king moved it outside. Because of the people that were impure, they wouldn't be able to get their coins in. Rab Hanina, Rab Chia, Shem Rab Yosef, Achla Yasa Beis Hashem, Al Shem Achla Yasa Beis Hashem, Sof Bis Kesef Mizmaris. Is he saying that there are two or that there's one? I think he means that there are two. He says that one collection was not done for renovations. One collection was done only for renovations, but that collection that was done for renovations didn't provide any funds for the utensils. So they had another fund that was used for the utensils. It was all a historical discussion of what was going on in the time of Yayash when he did those renovations. Okay, Hajjalach Perik Yigim Shayfris. Halach Aleph, the Mishnah says, what Perik is this? The seventh Perik. Moshe Nimtzu Bein Ashkalim L'Nedava. We start to discuss now Elam Metzias. These are sugyas and Elam Metzias. You'll actually, some of it is quoted actually there. What happens if you find some coins? Which where does it go? Which designation does it get? So if you find the coins between, remember there were 13. So if you find the coins between the Shkalim and the Nedava, there were 6 that were meant for Nedava, and there was one the first one that was Shkalim. So the Gemara explains, the Mishnah explains, Karav l'Shkalim, Yipul Shkalim l'Nedava, Yipul l'Nedava. It depends what it's closer to. If it's closer to the Shkalim Pushka, this you can possibly have when it gets complicated in the Machtas Shekel, they put up different things. In 770, they used to have, I don't know if they still have, like a wall that had different slots in it. You could put, you want to give for this, for that. You give, that's what happens. You go over there, you see on the floor coins. Which slot do you put those coins into? Someone was obviously putting it in and it dropped. So it says, whatever it's closer to. On the wall, it's going to be difficult. But what about mechza lemechza? Let's say it's half, exactly half. Yeah, Rabbi Yirmiyah's type of question. So Yiplo l'Nedava, it goes to the Nedava. Apparently, it's supposed to go to whatever's more strict. Now, why is this more strict? Yeah. I think it's all set up just to tell me the mechza lemechza. Benitzim l'Levaina karav leitzim. If it fell between the wood, there was the coins that would go towards the wood or towards the Levina. So it would go to, if it's karav leitzim, yipul leitzim. Levina, yipul Levina. Mechza lemechza. What about if it's half and half? Yipul Levina. So it goes to Levina. Apparently that's more strict. Ben kinin l'gayis le'ayla. We said there are different types of birds. And if it fell in between them. Karav l'kinim, yipul l'kinim. Karav l'gayis le'ayla, yipul l'gayis le'ayla. Mechza lemechza. What if it's half and half? Yipul l'gayis le'ayla. Goes to the gayis le'ayla. Ben chula l'maiser sheni.
Excuse me, Rabbi Smith. What's a gozle ola?
Yeah, go ahead.
What is a gozle ola?
A geisel is a bird, and the ola is the offering, the bird offering. We weren't 100% sure. The Gemara wasn't 100% sure. There was a machlekes what the difference between kinin and geisle ola were. Because kinin were also birds, One said Kenan were the Chatos. One said the Kenan were Tyran, and this is the Bnei Yaina. We had different. Why is there two funds over there? Two different boxes. Whatever the case is, here we're saying that it goes to the Goyz L'Yoyla, to the other box. Bein Chulul L'Maiser Sheni. If there's mundane money and there's Maiser Sheni money, we're now not in the Beis Hamikdash anymore. Now we're just, because we started talking about finding coins, you have two wallets. You have a Maiser Sheni wallet and you have a Chulin wallet. So Karav L'Chulin Yipul L'Chulin. Maiser Sheni Yipul Maiser Sheni. Yeah, this becomes a problem. If you have an organization that you're collecting money for, and you also have your private money, it's not so simple. You pull out from your pocket, you're like, what is this? Where does this belong? Yeah. So it's like, who gave this to me? Is this because I bought something for someone from the store, or did someone give me this for the show? So what happens here? Yipla Maiser Sheni, you have to take the. If it's closer to Maiser Sheni, it goes to Maiser Sheni. Mechtel mechtel. Let's say it's half and half. Yipla Maiser Sheni. Zaklal. Here's the rule. Hochanachar karav lahakel. Mechtel mechtel lahachmer. We'll go lenient if it's closer, but if it's half and half, we have to be stricter. What do you find over there? Is that just for reading, or are you deciphering some? Oh, really? Uh-huh. Better lighting somewhere? Looks like they're right over here. Oh, you're right on there. All right. The Gemara says, "Gemara's a little surprised about what the Mishnah just did. The order of the 13 in the Mishnah was taklin charatin, taklin atikin, and then goes kinan, then goes the birds. And we said that it was found in between the shkalim, which that's the first one, to the nadava, which is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's far away. And you missed the kinan. It was, I assume, the way the Mishnah put it up was in order. The new shkalim, the old shkalim. I would think there would be one row of the Gemara answers. Rabbavan b'shem Reb Pinchas kamin buchli ar hayo asiyin. There was a circle. Buchli is like a wheel, I think. Yeah, let me see. Yeah. Okay. Mechza lemechza yipla lenedava. If it's half and half, it goes to nedava. Light sarcha the mechza lemechza yipla l'shkalim. Why is it going to nedava? Shouldn't it go to the shkalim? The shkalim were the daily sacrifices. The nedava were sacrifices that were brought when the Beis Hamikdash when the mizbeach was idle. They're just to fill it up with something. Istaboy meimar shema yiplu l'shiyarei halishka. Some wanted to answer this. What happens if there's leftover money from shkalim? I use it for temple funds, for temple upkeep. However, nedava doesn't get used for temple upkeep. So this is more sacrifice, even though the shkalim goes for oilas. The nedava goes for, I guess it's also oilas. But we would think that those oilas that were obligatory would be more significant than the ones that were just donations. So whenever you don't know, you do it to the one that's more strict. Because actually, it comes out that the nedava is more strict, because the leftover funds from the mandatory sacrifices, that ends up going to the temple upkeep, which is not as strict as real sacrifice. Someone wanted to say it's just as if as the owner died when you find these coins, because you don't know like where it belongs, so it's as if the owner died. But what happens then? If someone designated his coin for shkalim, and then he passed away, Shmuel responded, This is we had this several times already. Rabbi Yasa, he says, when I was over there in Babylonia, I overheard Rabbi Yehuda asking Shmuel, what do you do if the person designates his coin and then he passes away? And Shmuel responded that it goes to Nadava. So here also, I find the coin in between the Shkalim and Nadava. What do I do with it? I just let it go to Nadava. There's leftover money from the Asir Seifa, from the 10th of the Eifa, which is brought by the Kohen Gadol. We've had this Gemara also before. Rabbi Yechanan Amar Lichem Liyam Melech. There's nothing you can do with it. You can't use it for tomorrow. Every day the Kohen Gadol brought an Asir Seifa, half in the morning and half in the afternoon. So if there's leftover money, it goes to the Yam Melech. Rabbi Lezer Yipul Nadava goes to Nadava. Bekasha. Oh, 1 second. Period. That you have to stop there. The punctuation stuff. Yeah. New topic. It's the Mishnah said that if there was a kinin, birds in Geisli Isla, and burnt offering birds, so the kinin we're assuming over here, I think means a chatas, money that was meant for a chatas, birds, chatasite, and money that was meant for birds that go as islas. It says it goes for islas. Vikasha, where's the question? V'yesh chatas krev isla. Let's say it's a mistake. How could you bring a chatas as a isla? If the money was meant for that, in other words, it's not closer to the Geisli Isla, it's half and half. So I'm just being strict and I'm bringing it as a Isla. The Chatas, maybe there would be some it's a lesser holiness, maybe it was eaten. I don't know if the Chatas was eaten. Yeah, it was eaten. Chizkiya b'shem Reb Shimon ben Lakish, Tanai Bezdin hu ala Meiser Shikriv Oilas. There's a Tanai Bezdin here. You're right, you have a complication. How can you switch a sacrifice? But there's a Tanai Bezdin. Bezdin made up the that this funds, this money goes for Oilas. We're left with a problem now. The Isha Zeis B'Mayim Miskaperes. What about this woman? You see, this is not donations. These are people that showed up that needed. The Nadava was the donations. There's people that showed up that said they needed to bring a chatas today, so they put the money into there, and that's was there, and they know that it got taken care of. Right, every day they finished all of the chatayis that were there. Problem is, now we find funds that are outside on the floor, in between this and that. So we said, okay, there's a Tanai Bezdin that it goes to Eilas. Bezdin instituted that that's what you should do. Problem is that they have a woman over here that her sacrifices weren't brought. It's usually the birds were usually brought a woman that gave birth or something. So Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Tanai Bezdinu Hamisapik Es Sakinen Umasapik Es Apsules. It has to be replaced as well. What happens here is like this: that if the bird, in other words, it has to go. We need other birds coming for a chatas to help this lady out. We don't know who the lady is, but some lady didn't get her birds brought as a chatas, or maybe they did. So the way it works is like this: if someone, the Beis Hamikdash would get. So here, there's a supplier of birds for the Beis Hamikdash. If one of those birds is shechted and it becomes puzzle, the supplier has to supply more. And we're not concerned that the kayanim may be messed up. We're not concerned. He has to come back and supply. Now, one more thing that they have to supply is that if money falls out and it falls half and half, so we attribute that money to the one that's more strict. In this case, it's an Isla. But we still require the supplier to come back and replace, just in case there's one that was meant to be a chatas. He has to bring that in. I don't know how they bring it. Oh, they didn't. They don't know who's this who. No. It's designated like this. They just put coins in. And then the person comes along, the kayan comes along and does the service of that bird based on the amount of coins that were there. And he says, whoever it's for, that's who it should be for. So someone comes out, so the supplier supplies them with extra. Leitzercha delay bein keteris leitzim. L'levaina lezav l'kapiras. Why didn't it mention the other ones? There were 13. It just didn't half of them. When we said at the end, we made a rule. We don't need to give all of the. We said whatever it's closer to, it's good enough. And then we're strict if it's happening. Okay, the Mishnah says, "Moish shenimtu lefnei seicher behema lo'elam meiser." This is mamash and mitzias. Money that's found in the animal market is always considered Meiser Sheni money. Whenever you find it, even in the middle of the year, you go into the animal market, I think it means in Yerushalayim, and you find over there coins on the floor, we say that it probably fell from a purchaser that was coming with this Meiser Sheni money. He's taking the money out of his pocket and the coin fell out. He wanted to buy shlamim because you're allowed to buy karbanos with Meiser Sheni. And if you wanted meat, you would bring the meat as a shlamim, and then you would eat the meat because the shlamim is eaten by the owner. No, he didn't he took out more money. He had enough, and he didn't realize that the change fell. Because that money was from his pocket, that was Meiser Sheni money. No, Meiser Sheni is his coins. He grew the grain, right, and he exchanged it for coin. Yeah, he shows up. Somewhere in the market, he got $5. He still bought $100. No. Yeah, he spent $95, and $5 is missing. You came along, and he doesn't have to replace that money. I don't think that money is Meiser Sheni. Other money wasn't. He kept it in his Meiser Sheni wallet, and he spent only $95. $5 got lost. You come along, someone comes along, finds those $5 over there on the floor. Hey, what is this? What is it? Well, it has a certain holiness to it. So you have to say that it's Meiser Sheni because it's assumed that it was coming from the purchaser that was buying a sacrifice. Why don't we assume it came from the seller? And when the seller gets the coins, the kedusha, it switches. The kedusha from the coins goes onto the animal. I'm not sure. Oh, the money was just on those coins. The kedusha was just on those coins. That's how it works. Those coins become sanctified. He brings them to Yerushalayim. What does he do with them in Yerushalayim? Well, he can use them to buy food or to buy animals for sacrifices. Or he could lose it. Gambling? No, okay. He lost it. It fell. Oh, yeah, we had that discussion. That was for Shakalim. That's different. You see, Shakalim coins need to make it to the Beis Hamikdash. Over there we said if the guy was given money and he loses it, so it depends if the truma of the Shakalim was taken. Over here, really Meiser Sheni just needs to be redeemed. I need to eat my produce. So I redeem it, and then I can eat the produce. What do I do with the money? I have to bring it to Yerushalayim. Let's say it didn't make it to Yerushalayim, it got lost, it fell in the ocean. My produce was still redeemed, right? Okay. The Harabayas, if you find coins on the Harabayas, then on the Temple Mount, then we say it's chulin. It's a little surprising. Why should it be chulin? Probably going to buy karbanos.
I read somewhere that the assumption was that the Harabayas was clean because the wind swept the streets, sort of cleaned up the streets every day.
Uh-huh. That I think we say is about Yerushalayim. that the streets of Yerushalayim are asuyim l'skabed b'chol yain.
They're swept every day.
They're swept every day.
But the har bias, I read that it's the wind that cleans it.
Now, 1 second. I'm not sure if that's accurate. On Yerushalayim, there's a concern that maybe it fell some other. You see, the problem is like this: on the holidays, it's clearly Meiser Sheni money. The problem is that we don't know when the money fell there, and even though you're going over there, it could be that it was from last month. Even though you're going there on the holiday, it could be from last month. So it would mean that the winds, I don't think, would blow away the coins, because we're assuming that it came from some other time of the year. Even if you're finding it on the holiday, you think, Mayo, it's from all the guests that are here with their Meiser Sheni. No, we say that it came from earlier in the year. How about a Yerushalayim? If you find the coins in Yerushalayim, it does say that somewhere, something about the winds. I don't remember because it doesn't fit exactly with this. Yerushalayim, if you find the money in Yerushalayim, B'shar Kol Yemei Shana Chulin. During the year, regular Chulin. However, B'shas Regel Kol Meiser. On the holiday, so the question over there was, at least the way the Gemara in Eila Metzias explained it, what's the difference, Harabayas in Yerushalayim? And the Gemara says that Yerushalayim was swept every day. Why was it swept every day? I think because there was a concern of a dead sheretz. They wanted to keep everything tahar, so they would always sweep it. Yeah, it's like certain cities, the streets are perfectly clean. And other cities, like they haven't gotten around to this in a month. So Yerushalayim was perfectly clean. So, okay. Basar shenimtza ba'azara. Find meat in the azara. So it depends. Eivarim, if it's a full limb, then we say it's an oila, it's a burnt offering. But chatichas, if it's small pieces, little steaks, so then chatas, those are chatais. Because the oila, they didn't have to slice it up because it would totally get burnt on the altar. If it's sliced up already, who sliced it up? It must have been that it was meant to be a chatas, so it was going to be eaten. So you can use it for items that Meiser Sheni is allowed to be purchased for, and you have to eat it in the way Meiser Sheni is eaten. Yeah. We're talking about that you can keep the money. You're asking maybe you have to return the money? Okay. Yerushalayim. Let's say you find meat in Yerushalayim. So Zivchi Shlamim. See, Shlamim didn't need to be in the temple courtyard. They were eaten in the whole city. The problem is that you actually can't eat it because you don't know exactly when it's from, or you just have to attribute that status to it. But then you have to wait till it stays overnight, and then you burn it. Nimtzu b'gvulin. Let's say you find meat somewhere else outside in the country. So a varim are nevelas. If it's a whole limb, then you assume that it was a nevela, and that's why the person just threw it over there. A chatichas, if it's already chopped up, then it's mutaris, then you're allowed to eat it. Can you imagine? You eat the meat. You found a piece of meat. It's no problem. I don't know if it's Lubavitch Shchita. B'shas regel. If it's the time of the holiday, so then even if it's a large piece, a whole limb, you can still eat it also. There's so much meat that could be they didn't get around to cutting this up yet. Yeah. Right. Right, we're going to see in this Gemara, the Gemara will discuss the problem. So, yeah, the Carbonada says, on the holidays they would cook the meat in big pots. They wouldn't even cut it up. There was so much. Okay. Light tzurcha deloi bahar abayas kodesh. Is it? We said that money that's found on the Harabayas, we said was chulin. Maybe it was from the temple funds that they were taking to buy animals or something. Rabbi Bar, Rabbi Chia, b'shem Rabbi Yechon, Chazaka she'nakayan maitzim and alishka ma'asad shemachal al behema. They're so careful that when they start to take the money from the lishka, they don't remove it until they say that this money is chulin on the animals that we're purchasing already. So the problem is, what about those? So it needed to become redeemed immediately. They didn't want the money to be brought out of the temple, sanctified. They right away got exchanged it for the animals. I guess they would bring the animals up and exchange it right then. Basar shenimtza, if you find meat. So we said, what do you have to do? It depends. What you do is you let it stay overnight. Question is what type of carbon it was. Reb Lezer b'shem Reb Hoshea. Hisia das ton ibetzura. You were misiach das. There's a discussion about what misiach das does. See, the meat needs to be guarded the whole time. You can't, this meat, the person that's involved with it can't be distracted by other things. Maybe it's going to become tummy. Now, is that a possibility? And if it didn't become tummy, it's fine? Or do we say hisiach das is already pasul? That's a little bit unclear. It's a machlaikas. He says that hisiach das, it doesn't automatically become pasul. Hisiach das, I have to leave it overnight, and then I can burn it. Now, if it would automatically become pasul, if hisiach das, if you lose concentration, so then I wouldn't need iber tzura. Rabbi Shia is saying that it's not automatically pasul. It's hisiach das we don't allow hisiach das to prevent that it shouldn't become tamei. That's a prevention. So therefore, we don't know if it became tamei. So therefore, you have to leave it overnight, and then you can burn it. Otherwise, you can't just burn things that are still fit. So Amar Rabbi Shia Masnisin Amar came to B'tzirasi v'yasel b'tzil streifa. Rabbi Shia says this is different than Rabbi Shia that we said before. He says it's actually the Mishnah. The Mishnah says to B'tzirasi Amar Rabbi Yasi v'yos. And that's correct. There's two ways of reading this. V'yos, is that correct? V'yos. La'achla yenat yachal. You can't eat it. Shemen eskalkal. Maybe there's something wrong with it. Shemen eskalkal tzirasi. L'fum kein tzarach meimer tu b'tzirasi v'yitzel beis esreifa. You can't eat it, and because maybe it has a problem. So therefore, what you do is you leave it overnight, so it for sure has a problem, and then you can burn it. Okay, there's different ways of reading that, but hopefully that fit with one of them. Okay, nimtza bigvulan. If you find meat outside somewhere, so we're going to see over here that there's a little bit of an issue, because where's the hechsher? For sure, basar shenasalim and ayin, right? Someone wasn't watching this, right? Or it was basar shenasalim and ayin, meat that wasn't watched. It's problematic. Rab Crispa. Yeah, we didn't have him before, right? Crispa. Sounds like a Roman, right? Crispus. Wasn't that a Roman name? Like a Roman general or something. B'shem Rabbi Yasi, Rabbi Chanina, Eivarim Nevelis. Like an Alem Shem Nevela. You get malchus if you eat one of those limbs. And we're like definite that that's a nevela. If you find a full limb, we said that that's probably a nevela. He says it's definitely. He says like this, look. When it says that it's mutter, Does it mean literally mutter? Yeah, it means literally mutter. It means you could eat it. If that's the case, then when we said nevela, we meant that it's literally nevela, and you get malchus. The kavaseh varm nevela, it's like a lemshim nevela. We have to take each one of these 100%. When it says it's mutter, it's mutter. When it's nevela, it's nevela. Rab Crispa b'shem Rab Yosi b'Rabbi Chanina im hayu machreizos mutaris. If it was strung together, we used to do this with fish. The Gemara talks about and elam mitzias. But if this meat was strung together, then we say that it's mutter. Why? Because they would only do that if it was kosher. They wouldn't do that if it wasn't. Famous Gemaras. If you have 9 stores, one is not. If you have 10 stores, 9 are selling nevela, and 1 is selling kosher. Nischalfalai. You went to buy meat, and you don't know which one you went into. So chayshish, I have to be concerned that maybe I went into one of those 9 stores. But if I find it meat on the street, then I go after the majority, and majority are treif. Let's say it's the other way. 9 stores are selling kosher meat, and 1 is selling non-kosher meat. If it gets confused where he purchased it from, he walked into a store, he was absent-minded. So chayshish, he has to be concerned that maybe the one store that he went into, his mazel, he walked into the wrong store, the treif store. I don't know. I think it means he doesn't know. The South of it. It has to be that he doesn't know which store he walked into. They all look the same. They were probably like stalls, booths, in these big plazas where the people would show up and, open the window. And, no? Yeah. Maybe it was just in the plaza. You just walked over and you take, like this happens. You're in the store. You're buying something from the shelf, like a jar of sauce or pasta. So you look at it. It has a extra. Okay, no, maybe I should get the other one. It's cheaper. You look back and forth. Finally, at the end of the whole thing, you just okay. I'm just going to take this one. And then you get home. You see you took the one with all the confusion. You took the wrong one. You took the one that had the OR. Okay. Yeah, I had that once with hot peppers, and I thought it didn't have ash. I thought my whole kitchen was straight because spicy things could ruin everything. You chop it with a knife and you put it in the plates and the thing and no, it turned out it wasn't straight. It didn't have a hechsher, but it wasn't whatever vinegar or something. What is it?
This was the basis for the ruling in Los Angeles a few years ago when it turned out that one of the so-called kosher butchers was selling treif meat. And remember that?
I don't remember Los Angeles. I remember the Muncie story.
No, this is also in Los Angeles. Rabbi Reichik gave a lecture on YouTube about the reason for the ruling that people had to kosher their utensils in kitchen again.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
You have to throw out things. You have to kosher the kitchen. I think it lost the cheskes kashas. No, because we found out that it was the whole time it wasn't. Okay. Here's the big chiddush. Not if you walked into a store. If you walked into the store, then you have to suspect that maybe you walked into the wrong store, because the store is kavua. And we have a rule called kavua k'mechtzal metzah. Where was the suffix nailan? Where was the birth of that doubt? It was in a store. Now that store is not a majority. That store is just one store. And I don't know if I went into that one store. So it's 50-50. I don't look at the statistics over there of how many stores there are. I look at which store I went into. Which store? It could be that it was that store. However, if you find it outside on the street, on the floor, then I look at the statistics. Statistically, this should be from one of the 9. And so therefore I go after it. If you find a guy walking out of the plaza or walking out of a store or something, so it's as if you found it in the plaza. What's the plaza? It's in front of all the 9 stores. So I have a non-Jew walking out of the area that has all the kosher restaurants with a bag and a steak inside. So I can assume that it's kosher. Reb Lezer bei Reb Chagi havi masmech l'Reb Mana. Reb Lezer, the son of Reb Chagi, was supporting Reb Mana. Chama l'chadar moi mekatim in suso mapik lebra. He saw this non-Jew, Aramai. He was cutting a piece off from his horse, and he was taking it to sell. Amalei hadod amar Reb Yechanan and nimtze biad nachri kem nimtze beplatya. Reb Lezer says to Reb Mana, is that what Reb Yechanan meant? That if you find it in the meat in the hands of a non-Jew, that it's as if you found it in the plaza and it's kosher? Is that what he meant? Amalei Kain Amar Reb Yaisi. Kain. Amar Reb Yaisi, Rebbe. I don't know how to read that. Vehin Shiros Yitzim Makom Shel Yisrael. So says Reb Yaisi. It's only if you saw him walking out of the Jewish marketplace. That's when we say that you can eat it. Not just in the hands of a guy. Rabbi Yechanan didn't really mean that this time you see a guy walking around in the plaza. If they see him walking out of the store, then of the kosher store, then you can eat it. You see a non-Jew walking out of one of the kosher stores here with a bag. It's probably from the store. And Chad Barnash b'tziparin azl by mizben kupin mentapcha. There was a fellow in Sipari that went to buy meat from the butcher. The butcher says, I'm not selling you. I don't know why. He didn't like him. He didn't like him. Amalei l'chadrima, he says to this Roman, Vaisile. And the Roman went to bring for him. He sent the Roman into the store. And the Roman, I guess the guy had nothing against the Roman, so he sold him some meat. Amalei, so afterwards he sees the butcher. He says, Leinasus al karche. I got the meat anyway. I tricked you. Amalei, Balabasin the Neveli, obviously. Oh, the Roman, I sold him tray for meat. So this is really going to turn into a huge fight. That's right. Rabbi Yirmiyah b'shem Rab Chanina Ma'aseh ba lifnei Rebbe v'amar like kula minei meiser mekul d'tzipayrin. Rabbi Yirmiyah in the name of Rab Chanina says that this story came in front of Rebbe. Do you trust the butcher? And he says we don't trust the butcher to usher the meat in all the markets of Tzipari. And the reason is when there was a tray for meat, there would be an announcement that would go out. There's a tray for meat today. Everyone should be careful. There's a tray for animals. Don't purchase today unless you know for sure. There would be an announcement if one of the butchers found the tray for. So there was no announcement that day. So the person didn't really need to suspect that this really was an issue. Now this guy is showing up and saying that the meat that he bought was tray. We don't trust it against the fact that there was no announcement that day. Rav Nachas L'Taman. Yeah. Rav Nachas L'Taman. Rav went down to Bavel. Chamson, he saw Makilan. People are lenient. The Chamer Alliance, he was very strict about them. Rav instituted Basar Shenesal Menayim. He said that they have to be, if the meat isn't watched entirely, at least in this case, he instituted over there that they have to be strict about it. They can't eat it if it's not seen the whole time, constantly watched. Had Barnash, Ozil boy Mishizga Askifte, Begavnara. It seems like he went to wash his hat, and in his hat was some meat, and the meat fell out. The inch said and it fell. But Azalei, he wasn't hiding it. He had it in his hat as a way of soaking it, and it would use his hat to. So, but Azalei, Chazer boy, he goes and returns Misvina. Misvina, I think, means he got it back. I think he found a piece of meat. Amalei Rav, Asalach. Dino Amar, Hahu Shataf Nara, Vaisi, Chayri Dinavela Tachtai. I know you found another piece of meat when you went there, but it wasn't your piece of meat. Your piece of meat got washed away. The piece of meat that showed up back in your hat, back in that spot, was in the Vela. We don't know. That's Rav's dinner, Basash and the Solomon Ayin. Even though it's in the same place that you left it, the same place that you dropped it. But it could be it was exchanged. The cat in there. Right. Now he has the cat in the hat. So, Chad Barnash, have a mahalach peshuka. There was a fellow that was walking in the market. Ton kupad. He's carrying meat. Asa daisa, this bird, a daya. The daya is one of the types of birds, came, and it grabbed it out of his hands while he's holding it. Saying it threw it somewhere. He wants to go get it back. He goes and he gets it back. It was originally carrying other nevela meat, and it threw it. And then after it threw it, it went to get yours. Yours, you didn't find yet. The piece that you picked up was the one that it threw away before, and that was the nevela piece of meat. You know, you shut off Zikin. The blaming a river here. The river Ginai washed away wine flasks.
Wait, I'm sorry.
No, he was can't kosher meat. The vulture took it away, and the vulture kept kosher. It grabbed the meat. It didn't ask what the hefsher was, and it grabbed the meat. Anyway, it threw the piece of meat. So the guy goes looking in the field for meat, and he finds a piece of meat. It says, "Oh, it must be from the one the vulture took from me." Comes to Rav. Rav says, "No, the vulture had thrown another piece of meat there before, and that's the one that you found, and that was traced."
No, the reason I asked is there was a commentary on Friday where at the end it's a concept that is about divine providence, and it talked about the bird colonial, it comes down and brings a certain fish, and in a week it will cover a little worm, it's showing that fish was by Hashgacha preface meant to be grabbed.
Right.
So I'm saying, yeah, I if this was a trade piece of meat, guy put it in his culture, then I can understand that Hashgacha preface get it out of his hand before he eats it. But if it wasn't a very different piece in the field.
Right. There is the Gemara, I think we learned it in Chulin or something, where it spoke about one of the prophets was being supplied with meat by Achav's kitchen, and it was coming from the bird. Was it Elio? Elio was getting supplied with meat. Avadia was in charge of the kitchen or something, and he was getting it through the birds were dropping it down for him. But somehow the Gemara asked how was he able to eat it? He didn't know where it was, and Achav's kitchen was kosher. Okay. And then there was with the other Gemara where this fellow, Tana or Amira, gets a leg of an animal from heaven, and they had a whole question: was it considered kosher? Does anything non-kosher come from heaven? Okay, that's Hashem keep kosher. You know, Yeshat of Zikin, so it washed away these skins, these flasks, the river Gemara. Also of the Kamei of Yitzchak or Rabbi Lazar. Let the sellers look at the knots, the wine sellers. the wine dealers. See if these flasks are exactly the way the wine sellers, and then you'll be allowed to keep it and it's kosher. Nakunika types of barrels. They were found in the basic Knesset of Bulai, also of the Kamir of Yermia. So it came in front of Rabbi Yermia. There's people that would make marks on the barrel. They would have to open the barrel and then they would have to seal it back up and they would put like a seal on it. Look, that's a type of barrel. So let the sukureya come and see if the. Oh really? So maybe it was a type of barrel. Oh, actually, interesting. There's another pshat for this naknika. That was a type of kishka. It was the intestines that were filled. Yeah, that would be the hot dog. Yeah. So where did I see the pshat? The carbonator says it's a type of barrel, and it was full of wine. Someone else said that it was. I don't know where I saw that, but someone says it's a type of something that's filled, like the intestines that are filled or something. Okay, so let them check to see if this is their if it's their mark, and then it's going to be good. Geditzali yishtakach bisrati de Gufta. The place Gufta, they found over there a roasted gedi in the open area. Bisrati is like a street or a highway. They allowed it. They had two halachas that they were concerned of, and they allowed both of them. Mishum mitzia. First of all, you're allowed to keep it. They have to return it. They allowed it. Mishum reiv mahalchi drachim. And they also said, since most of the people that walk on this road are Jewish, so they said that it's allowed to eat it because it's kosher. Mishum mitzia. Why are you allowed to keep it? The Tanya Matzah miyadari miyada gayas mishuna sayam mishuna sanar misrati gedelim plata gedela hariel shalei bnei shabayim misyashimem. There's yish over there. If you find things, either you found it because the lion had taken it, or the soldiers had taken it, or got washed by the sea, or you find it in a large area, Port Authority or something. So the train station. So it's the person for sure gave up hope. He's not going to find it again. So therefore, when you find it, you're allowed to keep it because the owner had given up. So here we're learning that even though it was a public area that was majority Jewish, same thing applies. The big machlekes over there in Elam Matzias. Reb Shimon ben Elazar's din of large areas is a din from Reb Shimon ben Elazar. If that applies to an area of Reb Yisrael, and over here they're saying it applies to Reb Yisrael. Mishum Reb Mahalti Drachim, Mishum Shchitas Nachri, B'Yishtakach the Beis Rebbe. What was our issue of Mahalti Drachim? Was it from a non-Jew? And we said that since the majority of people that were there were Jewish, so we said it's fine. And it turned out that this gedi had actually come from the house of Rebbe. They traced it. Yeah. They didn't have to, because Rebbe had given up hope. Yeah, there's a very interesting Gemara about in Yish. No, but because it's in a public area, you don't know if it's going to be returned, so you give up. The Gemara discusses someone that finds wine. Someone finds wine, and the Jew comes, and he's allowed to keep it for whatever reason. And the Jew comes along and says it's mine, and he gives a simon. So you don't have to give it back to him, but you're allowed to drink it because you know it's his. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the. I'm sorry. Yeah. So in a public area, if it was totally lost or it was washed away from in an ocean, in a flood, the guy it's totally given up hope. You don't have to give it back. The Gemara says that if you know whose it is, you're supposed to give it back, but that's the Pnimisher Sidin. That's beyond the law. The law actually is, a siman works in a place where you think it's going to be returned. But in places where you think it's not going to be. Yeah, but he gave up. Things get washed away in the ocean, or if it gets taken by the soldiers. Or... Uh-huh. Okay, here it says, Eagle de Guvna, a circle of cheese. Now you know what those fancy cheeses, they come in a circle, those wood box. Ishtakach bepundaka, the Levi, was found in the hotel of Levi. I guess someone left it there. And they were matter for two things. First of all, he can keep it. And also, from the people that were there, I'm sorry. I guess it was a type of hotel where a lot of people would come in, or people would stay together. It was like a hostel, probably. It wasn't like a private room where you would know it's probably from the last guy. Right? It was a lot of people there. The owners give up. It wasn't a concern of Gvinas Nachri, of non-Jewish cheese that could be made with non-kosher rennet. Turns out that it belonged to Rebbe Elazar bar Rabbi Yossi. Amar Reb Mana Kumi Rabbi Yossi. Reb Mana says in front of Rabbi Yossi, "Banan chamin rabbanan machrizim." You're saying that you're allowed to keep it, but I see all the rabbis are always calling out who lost it. Amalei at in avisa mishtakach leinasvis. Oh, he says, Rabbi Yossi tells to Reb Mana, he says, you wouldn't take it. Why? Rabbi Yoina avuch. Now we're finding out that Reb Mana's father was Rabbi Yoina. Rabbi Yoina, your father, lo yamar kain, elamar halavai kad nishtaka min piusa lagav. Afil kain nishtaka chaleinasav. So Rabbi Yoina, your father, said that if only I would find it outside the door, that way I'd be able to keep it. But it turns out that he wouldn't keep it anyway. He was just saying, like, I wish I would find the treasure outside in a place that I would keep it. But even if he would find it, he wouldn't keep it. He would say that like as if he would, but he really didn't. Okay, behema. Shnimtzes miyushalayim vad migdaleder kumidasel chalruach. If you find an animal outside Yerushalayim, to the area of Migdal-Eder. I'm not sure where that is. There's different opinions. But there was a Haggadah called Haggadah's Migdal-Eder. It had all the a bunch of collection of commentary. Anyway, this is a place. So if you find the animals there, Zecharim are oilas. If they're male animals, then you assume that they're sacrifices, burnt offerings. Nekevas, if they're female animals, then zivchi shlamim. Then you assume that they're shlamim. Rabbi Yehuda meharay lepsachim kedem l'regel lamed yom. If it could have been a Pesach, Korban Pesach, and it's 30 days before Pesach, then you assume that it was a Korban Pesach. You see, the problem is, people would say, I found an animal, here's an oila, they would take it to the base of Mikdash and they would bring it. The problem is that who's going to bring the wine and all of those things that come, the trimmings that come along, that's going to be a cost on the person that found an animal. They say, I'm not returning this. And they would just leave it and let it run away. So the Bezdin said, no, the house will provide. You just bring the animals and we'll take care of the nesachim. Amar Reb Shimon Zayin Dvar Meskinu Bezdin. Reb Shimon says the Bezdin instituted 7 things. This is one of them. That the temple will supply the nesachim. If a non-Jew sends an animal from a different country, and he sent along the wine and the oil, you bring it his wine and oil. I assume it's not his wine. I assume it means the money for his wine. But if he didn't send it, then the community will provide. Same as with a convert that doesn't have relatives. So if he passes away and he had animals that need to be brought as sacrifice, so you bring them. But what about the meal and the wine and the oil? So that comes from the community. The Kohen Gadol passes away, so you bring until the next one is appointed. The community brings. Usually, it's supposed to come from the Kohen Gadol's own money, but here, until the next one's appointed, it comes from the community. That's Karban Mincha, Mafed Mincha. What was it called? Chavite Kohen Gadol. It's called. Rabbi Yudaim Mishal Yoshim. It says no. It comes from the inheritors. They have to provide. Ushleim Haisakreva, and he adds in that usually was brought half an Isar in the morning and half an Isar in the afternoon. Not here. Here it was brought whole. The Gemara at the end is going to discuss. That means they brought 2 a day or they brought 1 a day. They also instituted that the salt and the wood, the Kohanim can use, and it's not considered me'ilah. There was salt in the Beis Hamikdash, whatever things they needed. And on the paraduma, that there shouldn't be me'ilah if some of the ashes went on their skin or something, that it shouldn't be considered me'ilah. Ashes apparently was good for different types of things. Balakinin and the birds, hapsule shiyubais mishal tzibur. It becomes puzzle that the community provides. Rabbi Yossi Amar hamaspikas kinu maspikas apsulis. No, the one that provided, that supplies the temple with the birds, he's the one that supplies them with if one of them becomes puzzle, like we mentioned before. Rabbi Hoshea Rabbah Amar Lavi b'demeim shanu. Hoshea Rabbah says it's impossible that you bring these animals as a sacrifice. You don't know 100% what it is. What it means is that you exchange it for money, and with that money, you found these animals outside Yerushalayim. You exchange it for money, and that money you bring as the sacrifices. Amalei Rabbi Yochanan, Aimrim leiladam tzeimal b'kadshim. Rabbi Yochanan says, how are you doing this? You can't just exchange possible sacrifices with money. Ela hilcha be'amachar arayv. Says, no, you follow the majority. Imrayv zecharim meiles. Imrayv nekeva zivchei shlamim. What does it mean? Yeah, but really, you're not allowed to be paid any animal until it has a mum. And here we're just saying to do it without getting a mum. No, that was only for Maisa. These are the animals that are sacrifices. You can't just redeem it. So Rabbi Yochanan says, no, it's more than this. It's actually the roiv is telling me what the animal is. The Gemara says, but how do you know the roiv is telling me that it's a shlamim if it's a female? The majority, it's possible a shlamim could come from a male or a female. An oila is only a male. Shlamim could be either. So why automatically is it going to be an oila if it's a male? Maybe it was a shlamim. Rather, what do you do? He says this, what you do is like this. You let it get a mum. The Gemara didn't spell out the main point. You let it get a blemish, and then you redeem it. And then with that money that you redeem, then you buy. He says, Reb Zira says, that there's really a Tanai Besdin. You don't have to be concerned that maybe this male animal was really a shlamim because shlamim could be brought male. There's a Tanai Besdin. Besdin made a condition that if an animal gets lost, if it's a male, that's what it's going to be. And that's like a precondition in when someone designates animals, that's the rules that apply to it. Just like we said over there, that's what we'll say over here. Over there, we were talking about the money that fell in between or whatever. Amr Rab Yosi l'Rab Yaakov Baracha ain't amazed. This looks like he's doing something on purpose. He's turning a shlamim into an oila. It's amazing. No, it's not a problem because it's a Tanai Bezdin. Amr Rab Yosi Adan Ana Taman Shemes Kol Rabbi Yehuda Shal Shmuel Hifer Shikla Yameis. Rabbi Yasa says, this is like the third time we're having this Gemara, that he was one time over there in Bavel, he overhears Rabbi Yehuda ask Shmuel, let's say someone designates his coin and then he passes away, what do you do? The coin doesn't go to the regular sacrifices, it goes to Nadava. Why not? Well, the shekel was meant to go for the mandatory offerings that are brought daily. Here he passed away, and he never gave it, so it doesn't go for the mandatory offerings. It just goes for the Meiser Sir Sefer Shalai, the Kohen Gadol that has left over from his mincha. Rabbi Yochanan Yelicham Yam Melech, Rabbi Lazar Yipul and Dabar. Rabbi Yochanan says you have to get rid of it. You throw it into the Dead Sea, or the ocean. And Rabbi Lazar says that it goes to Nadava. Asir Sefer Shal Kohen Gadol. How is it done? The 10th of the 8th of the Kohen Gadol. Rabbi Yochanan Mechotzai Savach Kamakacha. Rabbi Yochanan says first you divide it and then you sanctify it. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Mekachavach Chotzai. Shimon ben Lakish says the other way. First you sanctify it and then you divide it. Masnisim Palagal Rabbi Yochanan. The Mishnah goes on Rabbi Yochanan Makrav Mechza Avad. It says like this. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it's divided before it's consecrated. So if the Kohen Gadol passed away in the middle of the day, so he has half of his sacrifice left over that wasn't brought. And then I have a new Kohen Gadol coming in the afternoon. So he also designates a new one. So both halves, the first half of the first one and the second half of the second one, they are thrown away. They're avad. He died. How? They didn't give us that detail. So the problem is, according to Rabbi Yochanan, why does it get? Well, it was never sanctified. It was divided before it was sanctified. So plus, it could be that it was like the oldest son, so it would go naturally. Yeah. Avram Nassim says they did. Dr. Stein says they did rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Okay, we said not because it was consecrated, but because even the money that was left over, that would also go to the Yam HaMelech. So that's why anything that's left over from it goes to the Yam HaMelech. Not because it was consecrated as a sacrifice, but it was consecrated as a value. That's how the Gemara is shifting over here. Even if it's just the value, that also goes to the Yam HaMelech. That's the answer for Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said that it's only consecrated as a sacrifice after it's divided. So why do you have to throw it away? Well, you have to throw it in because even the value gets thrown away. Masnisa Palagal of Shimon ben Lakish. We have a Mishnah or Brisa that argues with Shimon ben Lakish, or that differs from Shimon. Nimtzu shnei chatzayin kreivim shnei chatzayin avudim. B'tani Allah mechza rishon and mechza sheni to b'tzeras and yetzel beis hasreifa. What did Rish Lakish say? He says that it's consecrated, and then it's divided. The problem is that if the Kohen Gadol passed away, why do you have to leave it overnight till you throw it out? It's puzzled automatically. The Kohen Gadol died. If it wasn't consecrated, then we'll say, well, we have to wait till it gets spoiled because it wasn't really designated specifically like that. But here, if it was consecrated 100% and then the owner dies, why do you have to leave it overnight to become puzzled? Just burn it immediately. Pasakin Rabbi Shmuel Damri Sarin Makadesh. Gemara answers that there's different versions, different opinions about the utensil that's used to measure the isar, to measure the flour. Rabbi Shmuel holds that this utensil consecrates, And the other brisa holds that it doesn't. So when Rabbi Lakish says that it gets consecrated before it's divided, he was following the opinion that the measuring cup already consecrates it. Very interesting that the Kohen Gadol brings a sacrifice every day. But actually, every Kohen on his inauguration brings, the first time he comes to the Beis Hamikdash, he brings also an Asir Seifa. And he performs, that's his first ceremony that he does. His first sacrifice. It's a driving test. So he does it alone. Let's say they didn't do it. Whether it was a Kohen Gadol or a Kohen Hedyot, what they did is still kosher. They missed that first. Hey, I never had a bar mitzvah. Don't worry, you put on tongue, you're still fine. Okay. Rabbi Mana boy Meimar boy the Yom Shin Skarf Tchila La Avoda boy Bayim Nisman Alias Kohen Gadol. Boy Meimar. He wanted to say on the same day that he's coming to do his avoda, the first day, they decide to tell him, "Oh, it's good you're here because we just appointed you as the Kohen Gadol." So he never even did any service yet. Now he's both a Kohen Hedyot and a Kohen Gadol on the same day. So maybe Shtaim has to bring two. One because it's inauguration of the Kohen Hedyot. And he's also a Kohen Gadol. A Kohen Gadol has to bring it every day. Tufine, it says regarding this, it says that it was baked into small pieces, broken into pieces. Tufine. When you, how do they translate tufine? It means either crumbled or baked into pieces. Okay. When was it? It wasn't baked earlier in the morning. It was baked at the time that they brought it. It was a problem. There's a little bit of a problem. We'll see in a moment. Very early in the morning, before the rooster crowed, they would go around and wake up the Kohanim. At the time the rooster crowed, a little before, a little after, I think the Mishnah says. Anyway, that's very early in the morning. It's before dawn. And then they would go around and they would with torches and they would examine the area of the courtyard to make sure everything was in order, and the Kohanim that would the Memuna, whatever. Then they would go to prepare the Chavitin, which is the Kohen Gadol's offering. The problem is that's very early in the morning. They were only just going to heat the water. They weren't going to actually bake the bread. Tufine, when it says Tufine, Rabbi Yossi, b'shem, it's quoting the pasuk. What it means is first you fry it and then you bake it. Rav Acha, in the name of Rav Chanina, says two opinions. What Rav Chanina said: first you bake it and then you fry it. Tufine te'afena na. It says tufine is a compound word. It means that you bake it par baked, only partially. Rabbi Yomer te'afena na, you bake it well. Machlekes, how it's baked. Rabbi Yomer te'afena riba. Rabbi Yomer says you bake it twice, an extra time. It's going to be like really, like a hard crust. Asyan ilin pluktayo kanim pluktayo. This machlekes fits with the other machlekes. Manda amar te'afena, the one that says that you bake it well. Command amar oifavachach metanga. He says that first you bake it and then you fry it. Command amar te'afena. One says that you bake it raw. Command amar metagna vachach oifa. He says that first you fry it and then you bake it. I would say exactly the opposite. Maybe the version is say if you bake it raw, that's because I'm gonna fry it in a minute, so I bake it last. No, I'm not sure what the correct version is over here. Let me see how the Takman Charatin says. Nope, he goes the other way. No, but there are different versions of this. Lois saif davar shemes el afilu nitma, afilu nitcha mimum. We said that the next Kohen Gadol brings the other one, or if there's left over. That would also apply not only if the Kohen Gadol died, but the same would apply if the Kohen Gadol became Tameh, or he got a blemish and he couldn't bring the rest of his sacrifice. Tani Reb Yosi ben Azi, Reb Yehuda bar Pazi, Davar delay afilu nidcha mimum. Let's see what this is. Even if he had a problem because it was a mum, he couldn't bring the rest of his sacrifice. How do we know the Kohen Gadol, if the Kohen Gadol passed away and they don't have a new Kohen Gadol, that you bring the inheritors bring the next one? This was a machlekes. But Talmud Laimar mibanav yasei, the children from his sons, they do it. That means the children will bring it. Yachal yivana lechatzayim. Maybe it's brought half and half. Talmud Laimar Isa kula amarti. It says Yasa Isa, you bring it, that means you have to bring the whole thing. It doesn't come from the sons, the inheritance, it comes from the community. It's not eaten. It's totally offered up on the altar. Kohen Gadol passed away, Rabbi Babar, Mamal Boy, the Reb Shimon. Apparently, the Reb Shimon changed his opinion. Over here, Reb Shimon says that it comes from the community if the Kohen Gadol passes away. That there was a Tanai Bez and it comes from the community. Taman Amar Mishal Yarshim. Over there, it says that it comes from the inheritors. Vacham Mishal Tzibur. Where's the over there? I guess it's in Menachos. Amar Abchia Barba V'Layesu Maksha. He's asking very well. Also, Rabbi Yaakov Baracha, Rabbi Bobashem, Rabbi Yechanan, Dvar Torah Shtei Ba Min HaTzibur. Biblically, you're right. It comes from the community brings it. Kima the Chazid Kamitcha Lishka, but they saw the community didn't have the funds. Yisiyayim Yigva Min HaYarshim. Kima the Chazid the Pasha was Shtei Ba Mitchumas Lishka. They saw the Yarshim weren't doing their job. They weren't bringing it, so they went back to the biblical law, where it comes from the community. What's going on over here? When it says you bring it whole, if there's no Kohen Gadol, you don't divide it into two parts. Do you bring it twice, in the morning and afternoon, or you just bring it in the morning and then you don't do anything in the afternoon? It says Minchas Tamid. I'm sorry, Minchas Tamid. A Mincha always. Does that mean that you bring it again? I don't know what the Gemara is answering. I'm not sure. Shleisha Lugin. When it says that you bring 3 Lugin of oil. Mahin. Shleisha Lugin Shachar, Shleisha Lugin Meid Arbayim. Or Lugin Mechta Shachar, Lugin Mechta Meid Arbayim. I know the meal, the flour offering is brought whole. But what about the other things, the oil that goes along with it? We also have this issue. Shnei Kaimtin. Mahin. Shnei Kaimtin B'Shachar, Shnei Kaimtin Ben Arbayim. Kaimitzachar B'Shachar, Kaimitzachar Ben Arbayim. Yeah. If you say it came along with Levina, if you brought it home in the morning, did you bring each half had 1 kaimitz of Levina with it? Do I bring 1 kaimitz of Levina with the whole meal offering, or do I now have to bring 2 kaimitz of Levinas with this whole meal offering? Amar Rab Yasa, Klum Lamdo Lekaimitz. Don't we learn it from a regular mincha? If it's brought twice, then it's brought. Then you have to bring 2. Just like a regular mincha, you have to bring for each one a kaimet. So here as well. Don't we learn the 3 lugin from the afternoon sacrifice? Okay. I think what it's saying is that you have to bring double amounts of everything else. The same way you bring the full. Right. Okay. Shalayahei. Let's try to finish this. That's Shalayahei. Shalayah and Befra, that they wouldn't have me'il if they use the ashes. Rav Shimon bar Nachman Shem Rabbi Yonasan B'dinu Shimaluba. Really, there should be me'il on the ashes. Being Gazer Shlayim, but there was a decree that it shouldn't be considered me'il if they had personal use on the ashes of the paraduma. But Tani Chatas, Malamit Shemaylim Ba, Ba Maylim Vein Maylim Ba. What are you telling me? That there's me'ila there originally. It says that only in the animal itself, not once it's burnt. Originally, they were using it to put on their wounds. Apparently, the ashes was good for wounds. They made a decree that there's me'ila. Then they saw that they stopped. So then they went back to the original that there's no me'ila. Balakinen, and for the birds, we said that if it becomes puzzle, the community brings, and Rabbi Yossi says that the one that provides the birds, he's the one that brings. The Isha says, "Maimis kaperes." How would the woman become? How would the woman become get her atonement if they would bring it as a noila? Like the Gemara said before, the one that provides, even though these coins had to go for an noila, but he provides an extra one for the tapas. Okay. So we should be okay. Tomorrow we should be close to finishing, but the siyum will not be tomorrow, it'll be on Tuesday. And that way the people that come will also get some yuma. Yeah, see if you have a Gemara. I don't think they're going to arrive on time. So I'll collect whatever there is here. It's in this, by the way. If you're using it, it's in this has the yuma as well. Have a good day.